Ready to stand by. Darcy Zufo, hello from Poliana. Thank you for coming. See, okay, very good. Obrigado, Lirica. And hello to everybody saying hi now. Hello from Chile. That's great. Mexico. Very good. Hello. Hello, Poliana again. Hello, Rosa. I would like to say everybody's names, but I don't think I'll manage to do it. Fortaleza. Hello, Desi. Hello, Ana. Thank you for coming. Wagner from Rio Grande do Sul. Well, thank you all for coming here today, this afternoon, in Brazil at least. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I am Vinícius Tavares, but please call me Vini Tavares. Vinícius is too long of a name. And hello to all my friends there, Tati too. It's a pleasure to be here. And first, a disclaimer in Portuguese. Esse evento ele foi programado já para ser em inglês, por isso que o título está em inglês, a apresentação está em inglês. E eu comecei falando em inglês. Porém, se vocês quiserem mais informações, se vocês quiserem falar sobre o assunto em português, eu vou deixar ao final da apresentação o meu site, o meu endereço, e também vocês podem ajudar já com feedback para conseguirem os slides. Então, aqui em cima do slide, vocês podem ver uma mensagem: to get the slides, help us with your feedback. Clicando aí, vocês preenchem a opinião de vocês sobre o evento e vocês podem... Eu vou mandar os slides para vocês, ok? So, continue now with English. To get the slides, you just need to click and send feedback on the call to action button here. To get the slides, help us with your feedback. I know it's I've seen on the news it's a hard day for some cities, especially, specifically Bogota, if I'm not mistaken, and Greece also. Lots of protests and riots. So I hope everybody is safe there watching us, and also safe from the pandemic, the virus. And this is the beauty of online events. We can all be here, no masks needed, lots of alcohol in gel to everybody. So thank you for coming. Let's get started. I'll just show my presentation here. You might be able to see my slides. Can you? Just waiting for one. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So this presentation is titled Phonology for Reading. I'm going to be talking about pronunciation in the English language classroom regarding reading ability, not speaking or listening per se. Okay. Beside Solutions is the name of my company, and the logo on the side is the pronunciation SIG, which stands for Special Interest Group, and the bigger logo there is by BRAZ-TESOL, which stands for Brazilian Association of Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages. It's the biggest and longest standing organization here for English teachers in Brazil. There are others in South America and other countries too, Europe, etc., IATEFL, worldwide. And it was probably because of BRAZ-TESOL and Betty Poe, my course tutor, that I entered this world, this ELT world, and started developing as a teacher educator, coordinator, advisor, pedagogical advisor. And this organization is a not-to-profit organization. We just pay a monthly fee to be a member of. And Disal, our biggest, our great partner, invited us to have some presentations by BRAZ-TESOL. Here I represent the pronunciation SIG, which is the special interest group for pronunciation studies and talks. So whenever you see me talking, you'll probably see pronunciation in the... Okay. Feedback form is not working. Good. I'll try to manage it while I present. Okay, so bear with me. I'll try to use another link then. I'm sorry for that everybody. Okay. So you might see it working now. Changes the link. Thank you. Okay, so and then BRAZ-TESOL is the one responsible for me being here today. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Yeah, and then we already have this configuration here on the slides. So I'm gonna take my backup here. And the first question there, which is hidden by the images, is, according to reading in language 2 or L2, should learners be taught how to comprehend and or recognize main points in an L2 text? It's this question that motivated me to talk here to you is about reading in an English classroom or a language 2 classroom. And we usually see teachers, myself included, giving reading tasks. So, okay, the reading for gist, in which we have students try to understand the main idea of the text, or reading for detailed information, reading for specifics, so on and so forth. So, should they be taught how to comprehend and or understand, recognize the main points in a text in another language? The point is, if you see these images there, men and women, they're talking and then working on a PC, walking and having a coffee, having some coffee. You probably can figure out, if you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, any order for the pictures, so that you can make a story. So text comprehension and logic organization in the mind doesn't depend necessarily on language. That's why in movies without sound, we can understand what's going on, even though we don't have text or auditory input. And according to Catherine Walter, a factor in poor language 2 processing of written text for an alphabetical language, just like Portuguese, Spanish, English, is counterintuitively an unreliable language 2 phonological inventory. We'll get to that. This suggests strongly that teaching phonology will help language 2 learners read better. This is her claim in 2013, based on her studies on language 2 processing in the classroom. Slides format. Yeah, the slides are not configured properly in this one. And I'll try to keep my eye on the chat box, okay? So feel free to ask questions. And something I forgot to tell you, for everybody attending the talk, you will get a certificate of participation, okay? So back to Catherine Walter, she says that reading doesn't depend only on reading tasks or developing these abilities, but rather understanding phonology to read better. And I will get back to the phonological inventory concept. Before, I'd like to go to this concept of working memory and ask you first, you can type in the chat box, how many types of memory are there? You can type a number, like 3, 5, 10, and type the names you think. For example, short-term memory, etc. I'm curious to see what you have in mind. We have 2, we have 7, 2, 6, 2, working memory, short-term, episodic, long-term. Yep. During this quarantine, I have none. Awesome. Musical memory, 2. Very good. So, of course, depending on the authors and scholars, we'll consider different types of memory. In this talk and in my paper, my studies, I will be focusing on working memory, which is one type of memory, but it's not related to necessarily storage of information. So if I'm thinking of what I ate for breakfast this morning, this is certainly not working memory. If I'm thinking of the first time I went to school, my first day at school, it is not working memory, rather autobiographical memory, for example. So to the concept of working memory. According to Alan Badley, one of the proponents of this model, the term working memory refers to a brain system that provides temporary storage, only temporary. If I'm thinking of the breakfast or the first day at school, it's not working memory because it's not temporary. And manipulation of information necessary for such complex cognitive tasks as language comprehension, learning, and reasoning. So we know that, like here below in the slides, we use working memory for mental arithmetic, following directions, grocery shopping, etc. But probably, especially in our case, it also impacts language learning because we're manipulating and we're temporarily storing information. And because I'm kind of nervous, I don't know if I'm going too fast. So please help me in the chat box. You can type too fast, or you can type too slow, or you can type okay, so that I know how you're following. All right, thank you. According to the proponents, Alan Badley and I think Richard Chinfrins, if I'm not mistaken, Atkins, I'm sorry. This would be the representation of the working memory model. So it is responsible in our brain for taking information from the environment via sensory input or auditory input, transferring it to systems that will manipulate this kind of information. For example, I touch toilet paper roll. So I know how it feels in my hand. This is sensory information or haptic, and it goes to my working memory so that it is processed, and I transfer it, ideally, if necessary, to the long-term memory. The one subsystem here we're focusing on for language purposes is not the visual sketchpad, which has to do with visual information, the episodic buffer, which is responsible for organizing information in a way that the brain can understand it, but rather the phonological loop, or in Portuguese, it's called alça fonológica. And the term I forgot to mention is called memória de trabalho. Okay, so the phonological loop is the one subsystem we're focusing on for this purpose here. I cannot make the link to the slides download work. Okay, it's Ana Paola. The link here is for the feedback, and after the presentation, I'll send you all the slides. Okay. Let me know if it works. So moving on with the model, this is what kind of happens in our brain when we listen to something or when we read something. So I'm going to go back a little while now and remind you of something. As I'm telling you everything I'm saying, your brains are processing, your ears are getting this auditory information, transferring it to what you already know in the language, which is English or Portuguese when I said it, and you're allocating that in the words and structures and sentences that you already know. If I would be speaking another language, this would sound probably Greek to you, if I were to be speaking Greek or German or any other language. The same happens when you're reading. So you might do this test to get any unfamiliar word, even in Portuguese or English or any other language, and try to read it, especially fast. We are going to have difficulties because our brains are not accustomed to the kind of to that word per se. And now getting back to the model, This system represents what happens when we listen and read to text information. Here you can see written text or spoken. Written becomes spoken in the for the phonological awareness part. So as you read phonological, your brain or your phonological loop micro rehearses it, and you can almost like listen to your own voice in your head, and you're not crazy, guaranteed. The word that you're reading. So as you read phonological, you don't need to pronounce it, say it out loud, but your brain understands it and rehearses it. That's the term, phonological. The same goes for anything you might try. In the chat box, please tell me that I'm not alone, I'm not crazy, I'm not listening to too many voices. Because maybe I am. We all do. Thank you, Juliana. Always. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Not alone. Awesome. And then this articulatory control processes, articulatory control process is responsible for repeating this kind of information, or this word, or this sentence, so that it's kept in the working memory for long enough for us to process it. Subvocalization is the voice I mentioned. It's the act of vocalizing something, but without using our mouth or our throat, our tongue, only in the mind. And interestingly, for even a shorter period of time, as I say what I'm saying, you might be also rehearsing it. And this is crazy. I always think I'm getting crazier when I talk about it. So because we are able to rehearse it and kind of practice what we listen, is that we have this memory consolidated, this piece of information consolidated in the phonological store. If I don't, or if we don't have a clear sense, a clear representation of the word, sentence, text, etc. So that's what happens when we read. If we're reading, especially in a language that we don't master, we are going to face difficulties because we don't have clear representation of the words in the sentences. So far, so good. Oh, let's see in the chat box. Wagner, my former Libras teacher told us that deaf people don't listen sounds in their mind. They kind of see the thing. Yeah, that probably thinking of people using Libras or ASL, they would be more related to the visual sketchpad, the symbols that are done with the hands, and also I think the facial expressions, right? But there's probably not the phonological loop. So far, so good. It happened. Phonological awareness is different for illiterates, and as Adam mentioned, for deaf people, it's visualization and not phonological processing. Thank you, Juliana. Okay, very good. So, what is the difference now between phonemic and phonological awareness? I'm sorry. Phonemic, as the word hints, it's focusing on and manipulating individual sounds. So, do you master or do you know how to produce the schwa, which would be a, or even the ash, which is a for cat, and pan? This is phonemic awareness. I know the sounds, I know how to manipulate them individually. If I'm talking about phonological awareness, on the other hand, I may identify and manipulate units of oral language, parts such as words, syllables, onset, rhymes, and then going on to words, to sentences and thought groups, chunks. And according to Reading Rockets, a very interesting website for reading activities, a well-developed phonological awareness enables us to identify and make oral rhymes, count the number of syllables in a word, and recognize words with the same initial sounds like my and many. So being able to manipulate sounds and identify them would ideally help us have clearer representations of words, which in turn would help us read better and understand better. You see, this is why phonology for reading. I'm not just giving students more reading comprehension exercises, but I'm helping them understand and manipulate language better so that they have clearer representations in their minds and they can read better. It's not simply giving them a gist task or a detail task. Maria Inês says tongue twisters are good for that. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, we're going to be seeing some, I think. And do you have so far any questions related to phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, working memory, or phonological loop? If you do, I believe there's a chat. There's a button here for questions. Just see if I find it. Okay, I think you might ask anything. Anything you type ending with a question mark will go to the question and answer mode. So I will take the time and see it after the slides finish, okay? Back to the presentation. The thought I had during preparing this presentation here, it was to give a little bit of theory to everybody attending and also share some of the activities that can be done so that we help students manipulate sounds and words better. So provided that they know these, the representations for these images here, the language representation for these images, which would be a rain and then this part a bow, technically they can manipulate the words rainbow. And here for cow and boy would give us a beautiful cowboy. Okay, let's check the chat box. I see Juliana asked before I activated the mode. So the idea is to work phonemic and phonological awareness in different exercises to improve reading. Precisely. Hopefully you will also agree with me by the end of the presentation. Okay. Phonological loop, I can get back to it, yes, in a while. How can I teach phonemic and phonological awareness to 10th grade students? Well, I think it's even better, maybe. 10th grade, how old are we talking about? What kind of phonology techniques will help students in reading comprehension? Yeah, that's the thing. We're talking about developing their sense of phonology and phonological awareness when they read, right? It's not only listening and understanding, but reading and understanding. So I'm going to share some activities here. Hopefully at the end I will still take a look at the questions, okay? I will have the time to do it. Dr. Seuss's books count with lots of rhymes and very crazy stories, especially for kids, but also adults. And I loved seeing one of the videos they made using a song, which is, I forgot the name of the song, by Migos, a band of men, and they adapted it into a rap version for Walk It in My Pocket. Let me share this video with you now. I find it funny. I know that you may not find it funny, but I thought the idea was very original, trying to rhyme and sing a poetry book by Dr. Seuss. So if it's too loud, let me know in the chat box. If you can hear it, let me know in the chat box. I'll probably just share part of the video, not the whole of it.
Zeus. Hi, Reggie. Here we go. Walk it in my pocket. 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 Okay. Walk it in my pocket. 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 In my pocket. Walk it in my pocket. Did you ever have a feeling? There's a basket in your basket, or a girl in your girl, or a closet in your closet. Sometimes I feel quite certain there's a jerky in the curtain. Sometimes I never feel it. There's a sock behind the clock, and that Zeppo on the shelf. I have talked to him myself. I said that Zeppo on the shelf. I have talked to him myself. That's the kind of house I live in. There's a link up in the sink, and there's Zeppo in the lap, and they're nice. I really think. Some of them are friendly, like that yacht up in the pot, but that.
Okay. I can't imagine kids trying to sing it. Yeah, I imagine myself trying to sing it too. The original song and the bass for this video is Migos' "Walk It, Talk It," and they put it in a "Walk It in My Pocket." There you go in the chat box. You can probably see it. So you see that I'm gonna try and find an image here. No, it's gonna be probably hard. But showing these rhymes and trying and having students guess what words rhyme and what is the common part can be one of the phonological awareness exercises you asked about. Oh, there. Yeah, the line says, "and the gear under the chair." So what sound is common there? It's probably air. And there's a lot of air to breathe. But not in my room. And it's fair, etc. You can start thinking and having students think of words that rhyme even though they don't exist. And for that, I'm going to another page here, which is pseudo reading. Provided that we have kind of a phonological awareness, a phonological inventory, and we understand how letters behave in words in English, we may use these lists, they're called pseudo-reading lists, to check students' ability in reading and trying to guess the sound. So for example, these words here, they would probably be sound like buff, and then cause, or cause, dit, fev, gac, huz, and then fute, yod, bime, neep, cabe, fune, kosnev, relheim, or something like it. So again, it's getting crazier. I know that you think it's getting crazier. Status was changed. I will try to read all the questions at the end, okay? And so you might Google this. It's very interesting. These lists exist for understanding or helping us teachers analyze how well our students are in written text comprehension. If we were to compare the first column here and the second column here, do you know any pronunciation feature we could mention that's happening here, going maybe from fut to fute? Can anybody help me in the chat box? All of these words have. Yeah, it's also cute. The silent final E, or the magic E as we call it. So this is something that will depend on reading or on literacy, because we're talking about letters, being able to identify letters. If I don't have this E, the vowel in the middle will probably sound like the short sound, which is fut. But if I have it, the vowel takes the alphabet name or the long sound, which is U, so fute. Same goes for yod, bime, neep, cabe. Whereas these words without the E would sound probably like foot, yod, bim, nap, cab, and fun. Cut, cute, mutt, mute, yeah. So far we talked about some of the strategies I think, and I tell teachers to experiment with. But of course, there are phonics, which are systems of cards for helping with that. I'm going to take them here now, just a second. Okay, so you probably can see me now. I love these groups of cards, these big flashcards, so that we can work with letters and their behavior in words. So I don't know if you can see it well, but this is the M for moon. M for moon. And where else can I find M? In words like man, meat, milk, and mud. So on and so forth. We have vowels. We have the long vowel, short vowels. This is the short as in bug. Bugs. Also found in puppy, sun, and tub. Hate vowels. Don't hate vowels. There are many. I'm not going to be able to show every card now, but please, if you do get your hands on a phonics card, please use it well. Cards. Here, no. I also like this one. Very big and beautiful drawings. Just the letter. This is the S for sun. And again, remember that we're talking about manipulating sounds, not necessarily identifying pictures. I still see many teachers just having students identify which pictures they're showing. Like, okay, what is this? This is a cell phone. Very good. But this is not sound manipulation. This is word recognition or image recognition, right? Tiny Cards is a functionality by Duolingo, but it's going offline in some weeks, I think, some days, so I won't focus on that. IPA cards, I don't have them now. But what I will suggest is, I think Disal has them. Yeah, Lyrica can probably help me with this piece of information. Do you have picture cards or flashcards for phonics? Feel free to join me in the video or also type in the chat box, ok? Então, se Disal tiver aí cards de fonética ou de phonics, please, deem aviso. What about these ones? The or the, and call, and, you. No sound here being focused, but these are sight words. This is what the slide is showing. Sight words are some of the most common words in the English language, and they don't follow regular pronunciation rules or letter to sound correspondence. So if I would get maybe, let's see, for, I could think of for or maybe fur, but this word is pronounced for. So the best way to teach it is automatizing it as for. So on and so forth. It is a great topic for studying too. And as you see, we also have flashcards for those words. I'm going to read the definition here at the back of the cards. The words which children most frequently encounter in their reading and which cannot be easily sounded out are called sight words. Knowing these words by sight is critical to reading fluency because it's what happens with English, right? And for that purpose, I'm quoting David Crystal here. Don't overestimate the irregularity of English spelling. The OUGH situation, which many teachers like to mention, and many students too, many have come to me and said, oh, I never know how to pronounce stuff, throughout, although it's exceptional. Like, it's one example out of million words we have. It's been estimated that about 75% of words in English are spelled according to a regular pattern. Good news for teachers and for students alike. And only about 3% are totally deviant. Awesome. We can teach English, and it's going to be easier now. That's tough. But the irregular spellings include some of the most frequent words in the language. So the overall impression of irregularity is great. This is great. This is awesome information for us to know and to share with our students, to make them more comfortable. You here, everybody probably know that English is teachable and learnable. And because of this piece of information here, I think it's easier to not convince, but motivate students to learn and remember. Okay, so spelling patterns is also one suggestion here I'm giving. Okay, this is straight out of my brain. If I can automatize letter combinations, they will work something like sight words too, in which every time I see a combination of letters in a word, I know how it's going to sound like. So we have the TION example for shun. Let's see some. Here, where's that? Didn't mention that. Final IGHT, which is going to sound like it in most words, if not all. Night, might, right, sight. The final QUE, which was one of my biggest difficulties after started teaching, after still having started teaching. Check, click, plaque. I was never sure how to pronounce those words, so if I had been taught that final QUE is usually a k sound, probably things would have been much easier for me. An N after an M for autumn, column, solemn, hymn, dem. A K before an N, silent, so knee, knife, night, knock, knuckle. STN for the T, silent, listen, fasten, listen, etc., etc. Ana Valeria mentioned the PS is harder for them to memorize. Absolutely, for me it was too. Pneumonia, it sounds strange, right? Pneumatic, pterodactyl. Jesus, whoever says these words. Okay, and I will get to the question, Janaína. Let's leave it to the end too, but I will get there. Let's see. Another suggestion I have for developing awareness and phonological awareness, okay, so bear in mind, we're talking about manipulating sounds and words, are Spoonerisms, which sound a little bit like tongue twisters. They're not so difficult to pronounce, but their twist is good. So I love this lion here. It's in the picture you can see that it's raining and the lion has some pain. So it's pouring with rain, but if you change the sound with a P sound, with a P sound, you're gonna have roaring with pain. Ha. I don't have many more examples here, but probably somebody from Asian origins is telling chicks, hold it right there. It's chopsticks because of the instruments used to eat, but also stop chicks. Ha. And this one I'm gonna give to you. This guy is singing a sad ballad. This lettuce is wilted. The croutons are stale. The dressing tastes rancid. I'm hitting the trail. It's a bad salad too. Ha. And last but not least, one suggestion I particularly adore is using Cambridge's English Vocabulary Profile. Remember this name, English Vocabulary Profile, but also English Grammar Profile. Great tools for teachers. I believe for some students who are interested in really delving into the language, we can separate words per level or topic, usage, part of speech, and we can work on these words. Like it's a almost like a corpus, but you can a dictionary, but you can find very detailed information on words and the levels. So I've been preparing students for the CAE and CPE. We get words from the C1 level, C2 level. So it's a tool that we can use for learning, to help learning. We can find it. Hi, Isabel Westing. We can find it on Cambridge's website, but if you Google English Vocabulary Profile or English Grammar Profile, you might find these links easily. Okay. All right. So for suggestions, I think my job here is done, and I'm gonna be looking at the Q&A now. Okay. Few questions only. Let's see. Many books mention phonological awareness when kids are just starting to learn the sounds. Is that wrong? Should be phonemic, not phonological, isn't it? Well, I think Natalia Hernandez answered that, asked that. I believe the moment kids start manipulating sounds, they're not aware of words yet. So they're mumbling and they're producing just out of context sounds like ah, pa, pa. As soon as they start working with their communication starts developing, they will eventually go for isolated words usually, and these words being usually nouns. So it's like water and mommy. If we think of these words already, we are talking about phonological awareness because it's a complete set of phonemes there. When they start learning the sounds consciously, like we're talking about probably preschool years or school years, preschool years, they may be working with rhymes and sounds, similar sounds. So that would be phonological awareness. They are manipulating words or chunks already. If this question wasn't answered, please feel free to reach out, and it would be lovely to talk more about that. For that, I'm going to change the feedback link. Let me see where I can do this. And I'm going to type my email, so you can send me an email too. Bear with me just a second. Okay. And please, Natalia, let me know if the answer sounded clear to you. Okay, I'm trying to manage questions and answers and the chat box, so please bear with me. We have 247 participants here. Thank you all very much once again. Okay, let's see. Questions. Yeah, good. And then we had Maricela asking, can you explain phonological loop? Yeah, I may try, but I would, of course, recommend you take a look at Alan Badley's works and also some books I will take now too. Getting there. Okay, so I'm gonna be leaving the contact information here for a while I show the books. I don't know if you can make the camera larger. Can we? Let's see. You probably can only see me, right? So I think it's better. This is the one I've mainly used for my studies in working memory, especially second language acquisition, which has to do with kids starting also to manipulate sounds. Great reference. I can also send a list in the email with the slides. So for that, please help me with feedback. This one helped me a lot during my research paper, Working Memory and Learning, by Susan Gathercole and Tracy Alloway. This book, yeah, not this one. There's another book by Tracy Alloway, which is Understanding Working Memory. Amazing, and it shows us how working memory can be related to dyslexia, developmental coordination disorder, autism, if I'm not mistaken. No, not autism, ADHD. So the impact working memory processing has on these areas, on these disorders. Great reference and great book also for my research, Teaching the Pronunciation of English as a Lingua Franca by Robin Walker. And his was the article that helped me or motivated me to write about pronunciation. It's his article in 2014. I think it was Speak Out magazine, a newsletter by IATEFL. And if I'm not mistaken, the title is Reading Matters. No, Pronunciation Matters. Pronunciation Matters. Feel free to Google it. I think it's amazing. Matters. Also, one of the Bibles for international English as in phonology for international languages, which is a very hyped topic nowadays. Let's get back to the questions. Okay, I don't know how many people are there. Chat box. Oh, chat box is working. My mouse was not there. Yes, I can include the list of the books in the slides. Leave it to me. So, questions now. Phonological loop would be a subsystem in working memory, in the working memory model proposed by Alan Badley. And he also has a publication here in this article, in this book, but you can find his studies on the internet. And this phonological loop would be, I would compare it to, let's say, maybe a microphone and, no, not a microphone. That's not the metaphor I like. Our inner voice and our inner ears. Because let's take the example once again. I'm going to show you something, and you may read it silently, or you can say it, but try to read it silently. This word here. You might have heard yourself or your inner voice saying processing. And this inner voice and this inner ear, because you're saying something and you're hearing it back, this would be characterized or defined as the phonological loop. The system that is responsible for this taking written or spoken information, transforming it into spoken language or auditory signs. Because again, if I tell you television, you might think of the word television and read it in your mind, but you also have this inner voice. If you only see a word, you might hear your own voice. Let's try to do this with sight words. It's automatic, and being able to do that successfully will have an impact on how good or how well we read, right? Again, if the answers are not helping that much, please reach out and let me know, because I really want to help, not create more confusion. Let's go to another question now. How can I teach phonemic and phonological awareness to 10th grade students? Well, I think later we talked about the suggestions, but it's mainly working on manipulating the sounds, manipulating words, so that they develop the ability of manipulating sounds better. They automatize some words, especially sight words or words that they frequently see. We can talk about 10th grade students, but we could also talk about adults. What kinds of words do they usually see or come across in their workplace if they're learning English for professional purposes, for example? So these words should be ideally the focus. And we're talking about using these words, but also manipulating sounds in them. Okay, it's phonology for reading, probably better. Natalia, why aren't there any methodology to start teaching phonemes when people are just starting learning how to pronounce? I don't think I understand this question very well, Natalia, but I'm going to try and offer my 2 cents. And it's 5 to 5. Probably 2 more questions, maybe, or 1. Lírica me ajuda, se puder ficar ainda mais um tempinho, ou como que tá. Tem bastantes perguntas ainda aqui. Okay? So, this methodology to start teaching phonemes can be considered can be thought of when we talk about phonics and sight words, because we're not explicitly mentioning, oh, this is the ash, this is the yod, but we're having them understand, oh, this is the sound of the sun or the snake. So I think these methodologies exist, but we may not necessarily know any different names rather than working with phonics. And again, I don't know if I answered you properly. Please help me with feedback too. Including the list of books. Okay, Lírica is probably sending me messages. Podemos enviar? Very good. Pode ficar mais um pouco. Okay, thank you, Lírica. What could I do with preschool kids that don't have much vocabulary in English? Alejandra Garcia. Well, if they're preschool kids, I would surely recommend we use Language 2 whenever we can. I've seen many teachers in the past 2 years, which I was traveling around Brazil helping teachers develop, I've seen many trying to speak English but resorting to translation. And we're talking about 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. So teachers should ideally be more acquainted with the second language acquisition process and with language acquisition process to know that the more they listen, the more students listen to words, the easier it will be for them to understand, manipulate sounds, etc. I may not be able to reference it now, but a study performed by one great university, believe me, okay, identified that babies can manipulate sound. They can, not that they can, but they can differentiate sounds from different languages when they are 6 months old. So why should we not speak language 2 with our preschool kids or with our students in general? Because it's an opportunity for them like adapt their ears, if I can say it like that, and increase their phonological inventory. Okay? We have Natalia talking about vowels in English. Yeah, they're harder than the consonants, right? Magical E, yeah, magical E is the kind of technique to understand if a word will be pronounced with X sound or Y sound, etc. Worth Googling too. Could you share some links for practicing phonology with teenagers? Lucy, I would really like to do it. I may not be able to because there's lots of things available online, but my suggestion would be basing first, understanding which kinds of content they are familiar with or they like, and then from these sets of words, going on to the phonology. And then you can take any phonology or phonetic exercise, for example, separating the words in different sounds or grouping words that rhyme, because the intention is developing their manipulation of sounds. Okay? Let's see, any other questions? Yeah, lots of questions for Disal's material. So yeah, I'll talk to Lydica, who helped me very much prepare for the event, and we'll let you know. Also, I can send an email with a link, I think. Maricela Aranda Rumaso, take a look at that. I am working sight words with my class. That's great. Please, you can also send an email sharing your experience. I'd really like to know that, okay? I think that with teenagers, those cards are better without images or drawings, yeah? But maybe with them too, so that they don't focus too much on the words, right? If we're talking about people who have different difficulties reading or even dyslexia, the written words will not help that much for this first understanding exercise or sound manipulating exercise. It will maybe cause a confusion, create a confusion, but it's worth trying too. Yeah, and then I think Juliana complimented. They won't have the feeling that it's childish, probably. Or if you get beautiful drawings too, cartoons. Are there specific sight words for each school grade or English level? Yes, it's defined. I don't remember the website, but I might Google it now. Yeah, I think K12 Reader or sightwords.com. If you just Google sight words, you might find examples, and then they separate by either level or the most common. But I'll also try to add an example of that in the list, in the email. What activities do you suggest to work with long texts such as papers and other academic texts? Hi, Janina. This is one question I remember seeing and saying, I will be answering that at the end. And this is my last question. Okay, I'm sorry. But if you still have your question unanswered and you'd like to talk about it, please reach out to me. The website is here in the call to action button. Also, you might see BRAZ-TESOL's contact for the pronunciation SIG on your screen. And to that last question, how to work with long texts such as papers and other academic texts. Well, if we're considering that the purpose is helping students manipulate sounds better, we don't necessarily need to do it with longer texts, but rather with words and then chunks and then maybe tongue twisters, which are longer, and then maybe longer sentences, but it's just manipulating sounds better so that their phonological awareness develops and they read better in the future. Okay, so when we read texts or academic papers, we're thinking not only of individual sounds, words, chunks, but also thought groups, pauses, which will happen, will be there, but this can also be seen in their language one. So I think the comparison is interesting. I had a student of mine read a text in Portuguese, and then because she showed great difficulties reading, so I asked her, please, would you read this paragraph in Portuguese? And then we started identifying some reading difficulties. I wouldn't go as far as to say that she had dyslexia, but that's when I saw that her reading difficulty was not because it was English, but probably because of letters themselves or the font. So I think there is my answer. I try to work with shorter pieces of text. Okay, and of course, feel free to reach out to BRAZ-TESOL in our email pronunciationsig@braztesol.org.br. If you try these suggestions, you have maybe photos or, I don't know, a report or an account, share them with us. We'll be hosting a teacher event in October. Like all the weekends, we'll have Teachers Month. So you will probably get notified if you are subscribed to BRAZ-TESOL's list. Thank you very much for being here. I'd like to take the time and switch to Portuguese for a while. Obrigado muito a Lírica, a Disal por terem convidado, ao BRAZ-TESOL por estar aqui, a todos os amigos, amigas, alunos também que falaram que iam me acompanhar. So thank you very much. I really want to keep in touch with you all, and hope you all stay safe. Thank you.